Welcome to another episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week from the Dead Daisies, it is guitarist Doug Aldrich. The band has a new album called Make Some Noise and are currently on tour opening for Kiss. So we talk about all that wonderful stuff and, of course, Doug's previous band, Whitesnake. So, without further ado, let's get started. But first, remember to check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON, and on Facebook, One-on-One, Mitch Lafon. And now, here is the one, the only, guitarist extraordinaire, Doug Aldrich. We are speaking with Doug Aldrich of the Dead Daisies. They have a new album coming out called Make Some Noise. And Doug, first of all, hello, but I've been listening to the album, and it is absolutely kicking ass.
Oh, thanks, man. It is. It's really a kick in the teeth, as Corabi says, and it's just straight up, no frills rock and riff rock. It's like a lot of good riffs and stuff. But I want to say to you, good morning. And it's funny that we were up this early talking about rock and roll because in the morning, like at 9:30 in the morning after you've been on tour and I've been rehearsing and stuff, we should be sleeping right now, dude.
Yes, we absolutely should. But the publicist sent a note saying 9:30 a.m. On a random Tuesday would be a perfect time for a rock interview. So here we are.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm glad that I get to speak with you. It's always a pleasure, and I'm glad you're digging the record.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, and let's talk about some of the joy of making new music, and then also some of the difficulties of getting it out there. Talk to me about how involved you were in the making of Make Some Noise. Are you just the guitar guy and you show up and you throw down some riffs, or are you writing? Are you having some kind of creative direction? Are you saying, hey, we should really try that, do 70s style? Or
Well, we did it all together, old school, as a new band. I mean, it feels. I mean, the Dead Daisies have earlier releases. They had a really strong release last year, the Revolution record in the beginning of last year, I guess it was. And but getting together with those guys, I've never worked with John Corabi before. I've been friends with him since the late 70s, which, I mean, it's amazing. We've known each other and we've been friends, but we never worked together, never wrote not a note of music together. And of course, I've worked with Marco with Whitesnake and also Brian and Whitesnake at different times. And I thought, before I started working on the record, I thought, well, that's a great rhythm section, and I remember talking to Marco about it. I said, who's on guitar? He said, the main guy is a guy called David Lowy, and he's the mostly rhythm guitar player, and he's kind of the founder of the band. And then Richard Forrest, and I thought, that's so cool for Richard. That's a great gig, And then last year, when I was on tour with Glenn Hughes, I got a call that Richard had gotten in a motorcycle accident and they needed someone to fill in, and I couldn't do it because I would have had to cancel some stuff on Glenn, and I didn't want to do that. So I just said, look, I can give you a couple names, but that's it. And then later they called back and said, well, look, Richard's going, you can't say anything, but Richard's going back with Guns N' Roses and Dead Daisies. He recommended you, and Dead Daisies already knew about you. And so I got involved and we got together. But the point being, it felt like a new band, and we got together, all five of us, and David Lowy decided he wanted this record to be a little more stripped down, a little more straight up rock without the keys. Although, Dizzy is amazing and he's one of the greatest rock keyboard players. He wanted to feature guitars more, I guess. And so we went into it, all of us, with various riffs and chord progressions and melodies, and we sat down together, and it was, it took a little while to gel because we all have written a lot of stuff over the years, and we sitting down in one room. It's like, who's going to take the lead here? And I was definitely prepared with, a couple of things that I thought would be cool, and everybody else was too. So we were all trying to get our licks in there, and eventually, after a couple of days, we were making progress, but it was just like, it was hard to keep up because there was, I'd show somebody an idea, and then they'd show me something, and then somebody else would take it somewhere else, and then it was a little bit chaotic, but it was making progress. But eventually, Marty Friedman, who produced the record, Marty Friedman is the guitar player. Marty Fredrickson is a guitar player, producer, songwriter, So anyway, he broke us up into groups and said, you and Tishy go in this room, and Karabi and Lowy go in this room with Marco, and Marty Fredrickson jumped back and forth, and we started to, after 4 or 5 days, we started to get some pretty solid direction going, and then we just kept going, and then we went to New York for a week after. This was in Nashville that we got together. Then we got together in New York directly after. We flew from Nashville to New York, and we got into a rehearsal room, and we went at it there for a week, and then we went back to Nashville, and we carried on there for another couple of days, and finally we had about 25 songs after two weeks or 2.5 weeks. So it felt like a real band, and I was, we were all equally involved in it.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I mean, it's weird because it's not like jumping into another band that's really got a sound that they've, it's still kind of a new band, a little bit, feeling like an up and coming band, and a band that's still developing its sound. So I didn't feel awkward at all. It just was. It was great to
get that in there.
And the stuff that we came up with for this record is a snapshot of that time. It's not, no frills. Let's keep it kick-ass rock. We had some other stuff. We had a couple of songs. There was this one song that was that Brian brought in a chord progression. Brian Tishy. And John had a part, and I added a part to it, and we kind of started to develop it. It was like an epic song, really cool. I think actually Karabi's going to cut it on his own at some point, but it was awesome. But it was just Marty, the producer Marty said, I just don't know how to place this song on the record. It's like the record has a real flow. It's like get in your car and hit the throttle kind of record, and this epic ballad that turns heavy, kind of like a Forevermore type of treatment in a way with Whitesnake. He was like, I don't know where to put this. It breaks up the record too much. It's not a bad thing that you have a song like that, but it just didn't fit with this group of songs. So what you got is, like I said, a snapshot of that time in February of this year.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I like the new sort of stripped down sound. I've always been a fan of, you get 4 guys in a room, you hit record, and that's the album. And I'm getting that kind of vibe on this, and I love that nice raw rock kind of thing. Talk to me about band itself. The Dead Daisies have been around for a few years. I've seen them open up for Kiss and for other guys, and it's been this guitarist and that guitarist and this singer and that singer. Is this it? I mean, is this the band now? Do you think we're gonna stick to this lineup for the foreseeable future?
This band was started as a collective, and it was kind of, when I say collective and I say band together, they're kind of contradictory in a way, because a collective means you're going to be bringing in pieces in and out, and it's kind of a bigger family than just the guys that are on stage. And that was the original kind of concept, which is interesting. But the thing is the fans, and you and I are fans of a lot of stuff, and we don't want to see those bands change. We like a particular lineup, and we don't want it to change. And the lineup that the Dead Daisies had previous to me was really cool, and I'm sure there were fans that were really happy with that lineup and didn't want any changes, but they happened. Now we're at this lineup, and there's going to be people that really love this lineup, and hopefully the older fans will too.
Because I really think that John Karabi on vocals anchors the band. I think it just gives them, or gives you, a direction. It's like, oh yeah, that's the guy. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the guy, right? John is great. He's great. I don't think a lead singer is replaceable. I mean, it's like, that's kind of the personality.
the personality of the band. I mean, you can, once the band's established, do what AC/DC just had to do, or do what Van Halen had to do. You can make those changes and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, I think that to have a gig or a record with this singer, and eventually when you get to a situation like we are with Robbie in the band, you want it to stay like that. And then obviously fans that like that record are going to want to have me and Tishy and Marco and David Lowy. So to answer your question, we are all committed to promoting this record, and we're going to tour the hell out of it. We're going to go and grind it out on the road, day by day, one fan at a time, and build this thing, because we had a great time doing it, and we like working together, and there's definitely more music that we could do. But I mean, you never know these days. That bands have to commit to each other to stick and promote a product, and if the band has legs and the fans are asking for more, then they probably will get more.
Yeah, and of course there'll be a lot of on the road with Kiss. But before I get to that, you were with Whitesnake and Dio and these other bands. How different or rewarding is it for you to actually have more of a say in the writing? In fact, am I assuming correctly that you had more of a say in the writing in this?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
I would actually say that I had more influence with Whitesnake, actually, because I had it was just me and David, and a majority of the material was, I initiated it and brought it to David, and then he would put his touch on it, and then we'd go from there. But with Dead Daisies, it really is, I'm a fifth of that what you're hearing. I mean, I think it's very different than Whitesnake was very rewarding for me, and I learned a lot, and I got a lot out of it. With working with David, it was an amazing experience. I'm super proud of it. And this was very rewarding too, in a different way, because instead of it just being David and I, this was like the whole band involved, and we went into it that way, that everyone's going to have influence over a song, and it was very refreshing to me to have that pressure off, to where everyone's going to carry their load here. Right. Everyone's going to carry their end, and together we'll see what we come up with, and that's what we did. With Whitesnake, it was more just David and I brainstorming where Whitesnake should go, and mainly David deciding what he liked and wanted to work on, and then we'd build a record together and then show it to the guys, and then we'd cut it. But with Whitesnake, because there was a little bit of different people in different places, we'd have to cut people at different times. It wasn't like we could really be in the same room together. I mean, like, for example, the Forevermore record was just me and Tishy in the studio. David wasn't even there for the drums. It was just the two of us and the co-producer Michael McIntyre, and we cut rhythm guitar and drums together, and then we built it from there. But with Dead Daisies, it's from the get-go. It's been all five of us all the time. That's what we do. When there's not anything like me and Robbie will go away and work on a song or something and then come back and go, hey guys, check this out. It's not like that. It's really old school. So
you gotta
we did it just like you said. We went in together, cut it, and hit record together, and the majority of the backing tracks were all cut live with Tishy, with two guitars and bass, and John would put down. He was still working on lyrics and stuff, so he was doing scatting vocals and stuff like that. But it was, for the most part, cut live, because we had great sounds and we were set up to rehearse and record at the same time. So it was great.
That's the way to do it. Now, listening to that story, knowing that you were sort of the half partner, if you want, with David Coverdale on Whitesnake, do you look back and think maybe I shouldn't have left, or was it just something at that time in your life you just had no other option but to leave?
Well, I think with Whitesnake, it was starting to. It wasn't. I mean, I could have stayed and stuff, but I really needed to spend time with my family. At that time, my son really needed a dad a little bit more full time.
Right.
Than
All kids need their dad full time, so that's a perfect decision.
Yeah, and I mean, it was down to I had to really weigh things out, and I'm just glad that David and I, it was amicable. There's no, obviously it's never easy when you have a split up, but it was for the most part amicable, and I love Coverdale, and I'm so happy to have been a part of it. But I'm really happy that I had the last couple of years with my boy more full time. That's where the whole Vegas thing came in, is that I had a gig where I could kind of be. It's a fun gig that I could play guitar and stay in one place. And,
right. Be a dad who goes to the office and then comes home after the office, which is perfect. So if David, like 3 years down the road, calls you and says, "I need you to come in," you might consider it. Or if one of the guys now, for whatever reason, gets sick, and he says, "Okay, come and play 5 dates," you might consider it then.
I'd absolutely. Man, I'm there for David if he ever needed anything. Whatever I could do. I'm part of the family. So I know that David. I know David well enough to know that he feels the same, and it would be no problem. But he also likes the challenge of exploring new ground with new people. So I mean. If he needed me, I would absolutely be there. If I was available, I would absolutely do it. And I'd love to, in the future, collaborate on something with him again. Because we had some, amazing creative times where the time was not a pressure. Time was not a point. We didn't have, we basically just were behind the scenes on the off time, no tour. And we would get together and create, and it was a great thing, really good.
Yeah, he's great. Now, I do know you have another interview after. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say there is a beauty to going in like we have been talking about and just knocking something out, because you don't get stuck. You just basically plow through, and there's a beauty to that. You can kind of do it and then let go of it. With the stuff with David, I really that stuff was like in my blood for all those weeks of working when we work on a project.
Yeah. Now I do know you have an interview coming up in about 5 minutes, so I do need to ask you about Glenn Hughes. You went out and did some shows with him. What was it like working with Glenn? And is that relationship done in the sense that you're now doing Dead Daisies and you'll never work with him again, or is there another possibility of recording and touring and doing something with Glenn down the road?
You never know, but there's no plan for anything with Glenn. I mean, Glenn, I had a great time playing with Glenn, and I've been friends with him for years. And it was a blast. I wish, that I'm a little bit regretful that we couldn't do that tour in March, because I really, the three of us, there was a real chemistry on stage where we would get into these really amazing jams, and there was a form for each song, but then live we would really take it somewhere different, based on how we felt. And I love that about Glenn. He was totally into improvisation and experimenting while on stage, and he'd go for it. So that was really cool. But then the schedule didn't work out for him, and so we had to cancel a March run. And now we had talked about that the focus should be more on Glenn anyway, and he was planning on he wanted to do a solo record, and he was it was a lot of ideas floating around, but we never really made any plans for anything. You never know, we might collaborate on something at some point. Glenn writes
all the time, yeah.
He'll write 4 songs a day, Glenn. And he's amazing. So I don't know, but I think right now he's really happy with the focus where it should be, which is on him. He just got in the Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and now he's going to do a solo record with his band, and there's no distraction from, any place. So that's good. And it sounds like maybe they'll be doing some black country stuff next year too.
Yeah, that's going to be coming up. Now, before we leave, you are doing a tour with Kiss, and it's an interesting tour because it's a smaller market tour, really getting into the bringing it to those fans that can't get out to LA, and it's you got to love that. And of course, you tried out for Kiss, like for the so goes the story. Tell me a little bit about that tour, and of course the cruise that's coming up.
It's called the Freedom to Rock Tour, and I've never toured like with Kiss. As far as with the band with Whitesnake, we did a few dates together here and there, festivals in Europe or whatever. But from what I understand, they're really fun to tour with, and that's awesome. John Crosby was saying that when he first, I think he did some shows with them last year, and he said, "Man, it was like I was so happy that they were very open with everything. They gave Dead Daisies all the sound and most of the lights, and they're just really good guys. They're not afraid of anything. They're going to come out and kick. They're going to come out and kill it when they do the show. But they were just really fun to tour with. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've always been friendly with the guys, and they've always been really nice to me. But we've never actually, toured or whatever. It's always just been hi-bye kind of thing. So it'll be fun. And it's obvious. And Eric Singer is a really great friend of mine, and as is Tommy Thayer. So, but I'm looking forward to be on the road with Eric because he's a blast.
Yeah, Eric is an absolute talent and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And Tommy's doing a great job with Kiss. He's in a tough spot.
He's been invested. In time and brainstorming the path for Kiss to go since for a long time. When they reformed with Ace and Peter, I think he was involved behind the scenes, and so he's a great guitar player. He's always been. I've known him since mid '80s.
Yeah, and he's actually been on. Trying to think here for 1, 2, 3. He's actually been on 5 Kiss albums, right? He played a little bit on Hot in the Shade without anybody knowing, a little bit on Revenge without anybody knowing, did some backing vocals on that one. So he's been with them since like '87 in some weird technical sense. So no, he's does a great job.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm really looking forward to it. So we're doing that tour. It starts mid for us. For them, it's starting soon, but we jump on mid-August through mid-September. I think the first date we fly. We have a day off that we fly from Europe to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and
yeah, I'm looking at it right now. You're going from Zurich, Switzerland on August 8th with Steel Panzer to Green Bay with Kiss on August 10th. So that'll be some flight for you guys.
Yeah, that's no big deal, man. It's you just sleep a little bit, but and I don't get jet lag so bad anymore. I'm so used to sleeping wherever I've got a chance to sleep. It ends up you're not really sure what time zone you're on, but the one thing is we do have on this European run, we have one day where we're doing 2 festivals in one day. And I don't know how that is. I've never done that. I guess, in the old days, bands would do that sometimes, but we're going to do a festival. I guess it's in the UK or
I
somewhere.
I see it here. July 23rd, you're doing Rambling Man. And on July 23rd, you're doing the Rock and Blues Custom Show, one in Kent and then one in Derby. So you'll be a little bit like Phil Collins during Live Aid, where he played Wembley and then flew over to Philadelphia. So
exactly, yeah, there you go.
It's your own personal Live Aid, this one. So there you go. I know you have an interview coming up right now, so on that we'll let you go. There's so many more questions, so many more things to say and do, but hey, there you go.
Well, I'm always glad to talk to you, and glad I guess you're back home off the road, so that's good. I'm getting ready to go on the road, but I've got my family with me in New York, which is really cool, and And I'll be bouncing back and forth. Well, we're going to be really pretty swamped till the end of the year promoting the record, and like I said, just grinding it out. But I do have a little bit of time. I'm going to be in Vegas at the Raiding the Rock Vault show too. So if anybody sees me doing that, come to that show or go to it anyway, because it's really a fun show.
Yeah, it's a fun show. And from what I gather, you sort of have an open invitation. When you're in town, you play, and when you're not, hey, we'll get you back when you... Right.
They got some a lot of guitar player action going. They've got Rowan Robertson has been filling in for Howard Leese, and Rowan is just a killer, man. I love playing with Rowan. Rowan and I were both in Dio together at different times, but to play with him together on stage is just awesome. He's just killer and such a sweet guy. And then Dave Amato comes and goes. Chris Brady from Hell Yeah comes and goes. So
Tracy Guns comes in, and
Tracy Guns. There's a lot of cool guitar players action in that gig.
Here, answer this in 30 seconds or less. You got Hugh McDonald of Bon Jovi that plays bass for that. Does he tell you some great Bon Jovi stories?
Oh yeah. There's all kinds of stories. They're getting ready to fire up too. Hugh's been there for,
forever.
I've just been, he's been at that gig with Bon Jovi, but also with Rock Vault forever. But when he wasn't there, Phil Soussan has been coming in from Ozzy and Billy Idol, and Phil kills it too, man. He is awesome. So that was the last lineup that I played with out there. It was with Phil, with Jay Schellen and Rowan, and it was a great lineup for that. And so it's pretty cool because it's changing, but the show remains the same. And obviously the focus is, again, it's always on the singers the most, and they got great singers on that show too. So it's cool.
Yeah, Mark Bowles does a great job.
Mark is awesome.
Yeah.
So for the foreseeable future, I am on Daisy's time and really enjoying it. We're in New York. We've been rehearsing. We've been rehearsing acoustic sets, then kind of a cocktail set, which is acoustic guitars with a small drum kit and electric bass, and then obviously the full-on thing. But we're like today, after the interviews, we're doing a 45-minute set, then we're doing a 60-minute set, then we're doing a 90-minute set, just to kind of go through all the different scenarios that are coming up. And it's always fun to be, always my favorite thing was to be in a rehearsal room, whether it was preparing for Whitesnake or Dio or now the Dead Daisies. It's really it's one of the funnest times because you're just really able to tweak your sound the way you want it and get your guitars the way you want them. And because when you get on the road, a lot of times you don't even get to touch your amps, and you don't get to find out, is there a tube that needs replacing or anything? It's just like you just go. So now's the best time. It's like everything's new and just it's great.
Well, and of course now is the best time to make some noise. So there you go.
Make some noise. There you go.
Always a pleasure, and we definitely need to do this again. Like when you come back to North America in August and do hey, you're on the road with Kiss, and how's the album doing? Because at that point the album will have just come out. So always a pleasure, Doug.
I hope you're gonna be able to make some of those shows, and I'll make sure to slip some wristbands under the table for you.
You mean underneath the plate of food at catering? Yeah, that's the way to do it, to get those anyway.
One day you're gonna have to tell that story you told me off the air, on the air, because that was an awesome story that you just told. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it was it was Spinal Tap times 12, and of course the half-hour boat ride to the stage. Just beautiful perfection all the way around.
Cool, Mitch. Well, thank you so much, man. Thanks for your support on all of our music that you're doing, and it really helps keep the music alive. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And listen, I truly love all this stuff. I've bought the Dead Daisies albums, even though I get the links. I need the physical. I buy it. I've bought John Corabi's albums. I bought Forevermore. I bought the Whitesnake. In fact, I just saw Whitesnake 2 weeks ago. They're still fucking phenomenal. Sorry for the language.
I know.
Yeah, you gotta support your bands, and you gotta buy the music. You gotta buy a ticket, and in my case, I gotta do these interviews to make sure people know about it. So,
thanks for waking up early today, man. It was. They told me. They said, I go, why do they want? what? Why is it at 9:30? They said Mitch wants it that way, and they told you the same thing. They're like, yeah, Doug wants it at 9:30.
Yep, that's exactly what they told me.
We should be in bed, not together.
No, not together. But yeah, we should have been sleeping a bit more. But that's okay. Listen, I've got some European shows coming up, and I got to go to the passport office to make sure I'm all good. So, what the heck?
All right. Well, good luck with that, and look forward to seeing you this summer.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, bro. Bye.
Cheers. And there you have it, folks. My interview with the wonderful, wonderful Doug Aldrich on guitar for the Dead Daisies. Make Some Noise is a new album. The band on tour with Kiss. And Kiss is definitely a band worth seeing live. There you go. On that, I bid you a fond farewell. Again, check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, MITCHLAFON. One-on-one, Mitch Lafon is the Facebook. Bye for now. Oh my.